If you're serious about being successful, you're going to surround yourself around people that are so successful that your greatest goals are going to be an embarrassment to them. What's going on, guys? It's Uzziah, your success consultant, and in today's video, I charge you to step your game up. I charge you in today's video to be able to elevate your circle of success. Change who you hang around with. I want you to surround yourself with people that are so successful that if you try to share your goals with them that you want to accomplish in 2018, they would walk away feeling embarrassed if they actually accomplish the same thing because they're on a totally another level. So let's say, for example, that you want to be able to get a better job. And right now you're kind of leveled off at $50,000 a year. What I'm saying is I want you to go and find people that are making $200,000 a year that would be terrified at the thought of making $50,000. Maybe you've never even got to $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year. And if you reach that goal, you would do backflips. You would be head over heels. I want you to surround yourself by people who would feel like their life is coming to an end by hitting that amount. And the reason is because of the fact that they're going to pull you up in time with their results. They're going to show you the mindset and the principles of people that make $200,000 or more per year. So as always, I got 3 powerful tips to be able to give you to really reframe your way of thinking in order to help you become a success. Number 1, I want you to understand that most of the learning that happens in life happens by osmosis. Now, I know this is going to be a controversial statement. You're going to be like, what, Uzziah? Are you freaking kidding me? You do all this talk about studying and training and practicing and being a learning machine. Now you're talking about learning through osmosis. Which one is it? See, this is where you got to understand that on the road to success, a lot of times you have to entertain seemingly opposing thoughts, but they all have their own place in the success journey. It's like you going on a road trip and you traveling from city to city to city to get to a destination. You're going to have to travel to different places to get to the place that you ultimately want to get. So I don't want you to think it's just a zero-sum game, that life and success is just going to be one principle and that's all you need in order to become successful. That's BS. Any person that tells you that all you need is just one single principle, one single variable, one single tip in order to be a success is guaranteed to be selling a crock of crap to you, and you should walk away from that person immediately. If you want to be successful, you got to understand that successful people can benefit you because you can be able to learn from their habits, learning their mannerisms, learning the way that they talk. You know, I'll give you a really good example of this that I experienced growing up. Even though, you know, I came from a certain background that didn't always put me in front of, you know, 7-figure earners and millionaires and, you know, the rich and famous, I was in a really blessed position to have an older brother that was already working in a corporate environment. And he was growing in his career and he was doing really well. And when I was young, like pre-teenage years, I would just sit back and watch how he would communicate with people at the job. I would see how he would talk to his peers in the office. I would see how he would talk to his manager. I would see how he would talk to other executives. I would see how he would write emails. And without even knowing it, his way of communicating started to influence me. In me seeing that as my first example of another black man in the workplace that was thriving professionally, I was able to look and just take in knowledge like a sponge to say, well, I guess this must be the way to do things. See, what a lot of times what we tend to not really value or not really realize, sometimes we tend to forget this. Your brain is going to start taking in whatever it sees, and without any other information to compare it to, it's just going to presume in a lot of cases that the information that it's perceiving is right. So if I don't have 10 other examples of how to talk to someone in a corporate environment, I'm going to look at the only example that I know and assume that it's correct. I'm going to assume that this is the way, that this is how it's supposed to be done. And that's the reason why I'm telling you that you have to go out and find people that are so successful that they would laugh at the goals that you have. Because in order for you to really make a breakthrough and get to another level on wherever you're at right now, you need to be able to look at people that are that much farther ahead and start picking up on some of their habits and goals through osmosis. Primary example of what I'm talking about. And, some other success teachers like Tony Robbins or other guys, they would call this more modeling. I'm talking about an example of Tiger Woods. When you think about what makes Tiger Woods an all-star player, it's not just because of the fact that he, made such a stunning career as an adult. Tiger Woods was watching his dad practice golf swings while he was a baby sitting in a high chair. Before Tiger Woods even knew how to talk, he was watching his father practice golf swings, and then his father decided to coach him and mentor him to be able to practice and develop the game, and he ended up becoming world class over time. Now, obviously, again, there's different factors. There was a certain level of innate ability. There's genetics. There's intelligence. There's this, there's that. But what I'm saying is one of the big variables that went into Tiger Woods even being able to untap that potential in himself. How many black dudes are growing up thinking that they're going to be a professional golfer? I mean, come on. You could have brothers that are right now that are on the block that could have all-star golf potential to play at the Masters and the PGA tournaments, but they would never know it because they've never seen a model of what it looks like to see somebody else that looks like them golfing on a certain level, and therefore they've never made the effort themselves to push themselves further in that arena. They just go for what they know. So what I'm telling you is you've got to make excellence and mastery and world-class performance the only thing that you know in your circle of success. If you're still surrounding yourself with people that are not interested in becoming successful in any arena at all, I'm not just talking about business, whatever facet of life that a person would want to be successful in, if they are not driven towards a goal, how are you ever going to pick up the seeds of success from them? Look at Floyd Mayweather. What makes Floyd Mayweather one of the greatest boxers of all time? Is it because of the fact that he's just more genetically sound than every other boxer that's ever gotten into the sport of boxing? No. One of the main variables is that his father, who was a professional boxer himself, along with his uncle, his father was showing him how to box from the minute that Mayweather came out of his mother's womb. This stuff just doesn't happen by magic, guys. You got to be able to have something to model yourself after. Why do so many of us grow up and play basketball in the hood? Because for many of us, that's a primary model that we're given. It's a primary thing that we see. And so whatever it is that you see, you're going to place more focus there. And it's going to become more of a norm. In certain areas of life, playing soccer is a norm. In certain areas of life, playing baseball competitively is a norm. So you're going to have a larger number of people out of those environments go and get into Major League Baseball. You've got to, at some level, surround yourself around the movers and shakers, because you're just going to pick up over on things in time. You're going to see how things go over time, and on some level, it's just going to start to rub off on you. Put yourself in that position and then allow yourself to be a sponge. And I'm telling you, it's going to rub off on you in time. So that's number one. The second thing that I want you to think about is when you watch American Idol, right? Like, maybe might not be one of your favorite shows, but I'm sure that you've probably heard of it. You might have heard of, all these different little shows that showcase people's talent, and people come from all over the world thinking that they're the world's best singer and they're the world's best dancer. And it's not until they go in front of an audition with all of these other panel of judges that they recognize that they really weren't that good at the profession and the music that they were applying themselves to. Sometimes, a lot of times, it almost seems like a joke. But in these people's minds, they're that good. Why? Because in the environment that they were growing up in, there may not have been a singer that was better than them. So let's say that your only environment is your street corner, your block, your little, 6-foot radius around you. If everybody within that 6-foot radius is, just glorifying you all day for how well you can sing, well, you might be the best person that can sing in your house or on your block, but are you the best singer in your community? Are you the best singer in your city? Are you the best singer in your state? Are you one of the best singers in your country? And then it goes on to the world. But if you stay in this little tiny bubble, this little tiny box, you know how many of us, and you've probably seen this in your family members. Some of y'all got grandmas and grandpas this way. They've never left the city that they grew up in ever in their life, and they never wanted to. They never wanted to be able to actually branch out and travel the world and see different things. And because of the fact that they will willfully keep themselves at such a limited perspective, they don't actually know what's going on in the world at large. There's so much more to the world than what you see on TV and in the news and in the media. You have to actually go out there and live it. So what I'm saying is, don't be like the person that gets on American Idol thinking that they're one of the best singers in the world because of the fact that they didn't compare their singing to anyone beyond their local street corner. Don't let that be you, because a lot of these people become hypnotized by that. Again, think about the NBA. This is a prime example. Think about how many brothers grew up in cities and states and towns where, yes, maybe at your one school that you grew up for elementary school or middle school, maybe you were on the varsity team. Maybe you did have a starting role. Maybe you did, have a really good game as you were competing with other people on that level. But what happens when you go to the division championships? What happens if you go and play college ball? What happens if you go to the pros? Any professional athlete will tell you in any arena, basketball, football, etc., they will tell you there is a difference between doing it if you're just doing it in college versus if you're doing it in the pros. Because you're dealing with a whole different class of men and people out there. It's a different environment. So you gotta be able to surround yourself with people that are already at the top of their game, who are so excellent in what they do. The little goals that you're coming to the table with that you tell them, it would embarrass them if they took that on. And I know it's not going to feel good, for you to be like, oh man, I don't want to be, just at this low level, Uzziah. I don't want to have to go through that. But guess what? That's the cost and the price that you have to pay in order to reach success. Because every single successful person once started as an amateur. They once started as a beginner, as a rookie. You don't just pop out a master. You got to be able to work your way up to mastery. Okay? So the last thing that I want to be able to really, really encourage you to understand in today's call is you got to get out of the emotional habit of wanting to be the best person in the room. Now, here's what I mean by that. How many times have you seen people, and a lot of times women do this, you'll see a woman that's extremely beautiful and she knows that she has a certain look, but she won't surround herself with any other women that are on the same look as her in terms of just being able to have this outward beauty, right? A lot of you brothers know what I'm talking about. You always got that one girl that always goes and find these friends that are like, not on that exact same level. And again, this is no disrespect. I'm just using examples that are common that we grew up understanding to be able to highlight a much greater point. A lot of times when you see people do that, it's because they're satisfying an emotional desire to want to be the best in a certain room, so that way they don't go through the discomforts of being stretched by having to elevate their game to that of another person. Okay? If you're seeing a beautiful woman and she just makes such a point to hang around women that don't really keep themselves up like she does, is because she, at some level, whether she realizes that or not, on some emotional, psychological level, she's emotionally comfortable with being in this crowd because she doesn't feel intimidated or threatened by somebody else that looks better than her, that may have better features than her, that may be more attractive to more men than her. So what she'll do is she'll try to be a big fish in a small pond. What I'm going to encourage you to do is rid yourself of that mentality. Rid yourself of wanting to be the HNIC of the room. Because one important distinction that I need you to take away from this call, there's a big difference between being the best that you can be versus being better than the next person or being better than everybody else. And you might be saying, what's the difference, Uzziah? Well, if you think about it, if you're the best person just in your local group, does that necessarily mean that you've reached your full potential just because you've outperformed somebody else? Somebody else may not have the same gift and the same capacity to go as far as you can go. So if you're only comparing your success to the person that's right next to you, that means whenever that person hits their ceiling, your ceiling is coming not too far after that, because once you have topped it just at the slightest level directly above theirs, you stop performing at a way that's actually going to elevate your results, right? You stop performing at a level that's all of the same things that you did to get to that point, you're going to stop doing because you're going to feel like you've already made it now, right? So it's a big difference between just trying to be better than somebody else versus trying to be the best that you can be. And I want you to be so confident in your gifts and your talents and your level of focus that really when it comes to the people that are around you, you don't have those emotional insecurities that will always make you the smartest person in the room or the top dog in the room, because you know that when you really get in your zone, it's about being the best that you can be. And when you're the best that you can be, Nobody else can touch that. So I want you to leave me a comment, and I want you to tell me if what I said today applies to you. Do you see yourself as someone that can learn from other people that are in a much higher position simply because of the fact that you're able to watch how they move, how they operate? And for all of you guys, you've already done this. When you were a baby, how do you think that you learned your accent? How do you think that you learned how to put words together? Did that just happen by magic? No. You are listening to another person's speaking patterns. You are picking up on their accent. You are picking up on the way that they used words, conjugated words, and that started to be the way that you would talk. So you need to start thinking about, am I placing myself in a position where I'm learning from top people and just seeing how they conduct themselves? Am I struggling from this American Idol kind of syndrome where, because of the fact that I only look at the people in my city or my block, I think that that's the measuring stick on how everybody is performing in life? When you think about success and being at a certain level, do you think about being the best that you can be? Or are you so emotionally insecure that you have to always be the head person in the room, being a big fish in a small pond, and that's never actually going to move your success forward? I want you to think about all of these things, and I want you to leave me a comment just reflecting upon that. Reflect upon that, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought personally about today's video, and then I want you to let me know what you're going to do personally to change your own behaviors to position yourself for success. The core message of this is, if you want to be successful, surround yourself around people that are so successful that they'll look at your goals and they'll be terrified by how low you're aiming yourself. That type of motivation, that type of energy being around you is going to be so key to being able to take the next step up. Because if you don't surround yourself in that group, you're always going to settle for less than the best. See you guys on the next video.